Ever since Alaska was first purchased from Russia in 1867, the issue of Native Alaskan land rights sizzled to a boil until it could no longer be contained. The Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971, better known as the ANCSA, served as a solution to this conflict over land rights, caused by the increase in settler population, the discovery of oil in 1967, and the fear of inadequate settlement options. By providing an acceptable compromise, it has significantly impacted the Alaskan economy and native way of life. When Alaska was first obtained by America, it was mostly neglected, and not many settlers inhabited the land. During this time period, the Organic Act was drafted to govern the fledgling territory of Alaska, but it had a significant flaw. It did not give natives clear title to their land. This lack of protection for land rights wasn't much of a problem in the 1880s, when only a few thousand settlers inhabited the land. But in the 1890s, gold was discovered in the Klondike region of Alaska, causing the population of white settlers to skyrocket, surpassing native villagers for the first time ever in the year 1900. Commander of the Albatross spoke of his discussions with native chiefs. He said, "They claim the white man is crowding them from their homes, robbing them of their ancestral rights, taking away their fish by shiploads, that their streams must soon be exhausted, that the Indians will have no supply to maintain himself and family, and that starvation must follow." This extreme population growth was only matched in the 1960s by the discovery of oil near the Swanson River. The possibility of a new source of fuel and capital caught the interest of the federal government and numerous oil companies. On top of that, a report was released in 1966, written by Bob Bennett, nominee for Commissioner of Indian Affairs. This report proposed a solution to the problematic situation of Native Americans on reservations due to unjust treaties and laws such as the Dawes Severalty Act and the Indian Allotment Act. It also provided a solution to the rising land claims issue in Alaska, stating that the Bureau of Indian Affairs would decide how to deal with the natives' dispute.
Bob Bennett's report, the BIA report, came out in April of 1966 with the statement that they would draw up a solution to the land problem. I read it and wondered what could be done, what could we do? And finally it dawned on me, if we had any rights, we should have something to say about it, not the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C.
Rising population, the discovery of oil, and now major threats of inadequate settlement options began to alarm Native leaders across the state. Small regional organizations were formed, but communication across a giant winter wonderland wasn't especially wonderful.
Especially when you think back to the late 60s and 70s, Alaska was a different place than it is now. This is before the internet, maybe one phone per village. During also the late 60s, you have the social upheaval across the whole United States. You have the Vietnam War, you have the rise of the Black Panthers, you have the American Indian movement, you have other social forces that really had a huge impact on the American psyche.
The main way these organizations and the Native Alaskan people were able to come together was a newspaper initiated by an Inupiaq artist Howard Rock, and the efforts of Native trailblazers such as Emil Noddy, who started the Alaska Federation of Natives. Unlike previous groups, the AFN was a massive community with over 400 delegates from 17 smaller organizations. These people were prepared to form a compromise capable of satisfying tribes from every corner of Alaska. By uniting, they created a powerful political force that could finally break the 400-year tradition of betrayal of Indian tribes by American settlers. Amidst the confusing land claims process, there were few things the natives were certain about. They knew that they did not want to establish reservations, and they did not want to file in the U.S. Court of Claims.
We took a look at the history of the reservations in America, and it was not a very pretty picture. High unemployment, undereducation, poor housing, short lifespan, high infant mortality, and we decided that we would make our own mistakes.
Filing under the U.S. Court of Claims would have taken far too long to go through. Additionally, the court did not have the power to grant title to land, only compensation for lands lost. The native tribes did not just want compensation, they wanted their land. As the selection process continued, it became a frenzy of uncoordinated claiming of land, especially after the initial discovery of oil in the Swanson River Valley. Fed up with the disordered land selection process, the AFN demanded a bill that would freeze the heated division of the state until the claims of natives were settled. In 1968, more oil was discovered in a region that soon became known as the largest deposit in North America, Prudhoe Bay. In order to transfer oil to the markets, companies needed to build a massive pipeline across Alaska. British Petroleum, as well as a small oil company called Standard Oil of Ohio, were willing to take on the expensive and politically strenuous task of constructing it.
Shortly after it became known that we planned to build an 800-mile pipeline to connect the Prudhoe Bay oil field to the port of Valdez, the different tribes banded together and started a series of legal actions at the state and federal level to prevent the government from granting us permission to build the pipeline across lands that they own.
Due to negotiations and the land freeze from 1967, neither the oil companies nor the state of Alaska could earn dividends on their investments. This put immense pressure on the federal government to come up with a compromise. Henceforth, Congress started to debate on a land settlement bill. Initially, Congress's solutions were not to the AFN's liking. Alaska Native delegates began to fear that they wouldn't receive enough land for their subsistence lifestyle.
Our original position was 80 million acres. We dropped back to 40 million acres. We were advised to be realistic and ask for 20 million acres, and we refused to do that. If we went to 20 million acres, we'd be bargaining for 10.
Even after 8 bills were introduced, a suitable solution was not found. But the Native spirits were lifted on July 8, 1970, when President Nixon delivered an address supporting the Indians' rights to their ancestral lands.
Nixon, as a Republican, thought that 40 million acres was good, and when he did, the Republican Party supported him, and the Democrats decided that it was the thing to do.
Afterwards, a final bill was introduced to Congress. By the time it was handed over to the president, it had provided natives with clear title to 44 million acres of land and $962.5 million in compensation, $500 million from the state, and $482.5 million from the federal government, the midway point between the amount the Senate and the House bills proposed. It also established 12 regional corporations, which were eventually extended to 13, adding a corporation for natives living outside of Alaska. This compromise has benefited native corporations by allowing them to provide dividends for shareholders and remain independent for decades. However, it has also forced many villages to have to transition into the economic world without experience or time to adapt.
Corporations are designed to amass wealth, and the traditions in the Athabascan people was that wealth was not accumulated. The wealthiest person, when he got goods, would distribute them.
The regional corporations, land selection, and stockholder admission all had to be completed within the first 2 years by people that were not necessarily prepared for the job.
Prior to land claims, we had no experience with cumulative voting, balance sheets, annual reports. It was sink or swim.
Due to a rush to entry into a new world, many village corporations, and even some regional corporations, have gone bankrupt. However, through amendments to the ANCSA, as well as other programs such as the 8 No-Bid Contract Program, Native Alaskan companies have had undoubtedly changed the lives of Native stockholders and significantly impacted Alaska's economy. Today, Native corporations make up 21.8% of Alaska's GDP, give out over $150 million to shareholders each year, and employ nearly 50,000 people nationwide.
It may not have been everything that they wanted, but what they accomplished was amazing.
Lastly, the ANCSA largely benefited the U.S. oil industry, specifically Standard Oil of Ohio, by finally allowing them to construct the Alaska pipeline.
It transformed the company. We moved from 58th to 15th largest industrial corporation in terms of assets.
The official verification of this deal benefited all parties, protecting land rights to Native Alaskans, augmenting Alaska's economy, and transforming Ohio and other small oil companies into major industrial players. By providing an acceptable solution to a heated conflict over land rights in the icy north, the ANCSA has become one of the most successful compromises between American Indians and the government.